Alright, everybody, welcome to a brand new interview with Morten Tyldum, the director of all 8 episodes of Defending Jacob. Now, do not worry, there will not be spoilers in this interview. I made sure to stay very, very far away from those, but we really had a discussion, in-depth one, discussing streaming, discussing the casting of Chris Evans, Michelle Dockery, Jaeden Martell, and even really, what would you do if you were put into these parents' shoes? It's a very interesting interview, and I hope you guys do have a great time with it. Do understand the quality is not the best because we had to record it locally on my computer through Zoom, but still, nonetheless, it was a great time. Morten is a great guy, and I had a blast talking with him about one of my favorite shows this year so far, and if you haven't started watching the show, you definitely should. I know a lot of you guys checked out my review on this channel, and I hope that you guys, if you didn't yet, go check it out, and then check it out after the interview, of course. This was a great time, and I hope you guys do enjoy. If you guys are new here, though, make sure you're gonna hit that like and subscribe button, as well as comment down below, and let me know your guys' thoughts on the show. Are you guys excited about it? Are you not? Let me know, as well as thank you to you guys. Thank you to Sandwich on Films. If you guys are interested in seeing movies early once movie theaters open back up, head on over to Sandwich on Films, and of course, just a big thank you to you and a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. Of course, right before we get into this, thank you to the playlist as well. They, Griffin from over there had me conduct this interview, so thank you so much for having me over there for the first time. It was a blast, and I hope you guys do enjoy the interview. Morten, how you doing today? I mean, this is a crazy time, but I think this is the perfect time for the show to come out so we can all start kind of watching it and keeping ourselves busy.
Yeah, no, it's been very fun. We opened at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
So I started the day by reading through Twitter.
Nice.
And it's pretty amazing when so far the response has been really good. But it's you kind of, when you don't have to open a movie in the theater, and you don't, usually you love sitting there in the theater with the audience and you get the audience reaction. So now going through like social media is sort of like the only way you can sort of like get the immediate audience reactions.
Yeah,
So,
totally. And I mean that kind of just dives into the first question I really have for you is like, what is the difference in filming TV and movies? I mean, you've made Passengers, Imitation Game, which I love both of those. I have so much fun with all those, and the atmosphere you're able to build inside those worlds. How do you plan out the story and develop it into 8 episodes compared to a movie?
I mean, it was very different, and this is the first time I've done not TV, but it's the first time I've done 8 episodes, directing 8 hours of something, which is a pretty crazy undertaking. It's I promised myself to never do it again when I finished, and now I'm like, nah, it's my I'm not going to do it again. But
and that's kind of how it is in like the moment. You're like, oh man, I don't know if I would ever do this again. It was worth it, but like, do I really want to do it again? And I mean, that's kind of where it goes to. Are there any challenges or advantages you have with those 8 episodes? Because I can imagine you have more time to tell a story and flesh out these characters.
Oh, for sure. And it's the advantage is that you really get to work with this, and I can't praise my cast enough. I had these amazing actors that came on board, and to really work with them. And there were so many very character-driven performances, scenes, which so that was so fun to actually have that. That's in a movie you have 4 or 5 key scenes, which are but in this there was like all these long, great, well-written dialogues in which and to actually do that and direct that was a blast.
Yeah, and I can imagine. I mean, me and my girlfriend sat down to watch this show, and we're like, we'll watch an episode here and there. No, we binged the thing in like one sitting, but each episode we sat there discussing it. Like, is this what's going to happen? Obviously, I don't want to get into spoilers when people talk and hear this and pretty much watch the interview. I don't want them to kind of sit there and be like, oh, I don't want them to spoil. So we're not going to get into spoilers, but I really it was just the way that you spiraled out this mystery. What aspects did you plan out to leave this feeling of the unknown? How do you continue this while on set in general with the creation of everything going on?
I think thank you first of all, but I think that to tell the story, what we discussed was point of view. To be really said, this is going to be, we're going to want to be really close with this couple. And we wanted to leave their son up to be a mystery, an enigma, which we want to, as audience, guess what he did not do, as much as the parents has to do. And we wanted sort of like the world to really revolve around these two. And be allowed to see their secrets they have for each other, and how it evolves. And that's how I feel. It's sort of like a study of a couple being thrown out of the deepest water, and having to deal with sort of like every parent's nightmare. That's this happened to our son, but not only do we have to fight for him being innocent, we have to figure out what actually happened.
Yes.
What are we actually dealing with here?
Yes, and that's the most intriguing part of it, man. I mean, you did such a good job of directing that into each episode. And again, like I said, like after each episode, we sat there going, well, did he do it? What are we missing? And we felt like we were in Chris Evans and Michelle Dockery's shoes.
Oh, I love hearing that, because that is what I hope to do. And we're deliberately sort of like wanted to not slow it down, but we wanted to sort of like say, okay, we have 8 hours now. Let's really try to be with these people. Like if we were doing this as a movie, it would be a lot more plot driven. It would be, okay, we'll take all the twists and turns, because there are a lot of surprises. There are twists and turns in this. But, a movie plot will sort of like focus on that. But now we can actually stay with them. We can have those, be witness to those conversations they have when they go to bed, their fear, the anxiety, how they're trying to pick each other up. I mean, so that's going to be interesting now to that's the beauty of TV. That's something that TV can do more so than movie. You can live with these characters.
Totally. And you really feel like you were with this family. You feel like you're in Michelle Dockery and Chris Evans' shoes. And that's kind of the thing I want to get. What is the process of casting the likes of Dockery, Evans, and even Martell? I mean, for me, this is so different than something they've ever done before. And the way that you're able to play the story with them really was interesting to me.
No, I think when I go out casting, I love to find actors. I want I don't like to find actors that are like, oh, he's the obvious cast, because you've seen him do something similar before and he's done it great. I really try to find actors that hasn't really done this kind of part before. So this is sort of like the first time they're playing this kind of character, these kind of emotions, and doing this. And I think it's challenging. And I can't praise Chris, Michelle, Jaeden, but also Cherry, Pablo Schreiber, and so it's you really needed to believe in this family, and you fully believe in them, and as a couple they become so real, and it's something we worked a lot on. It's like as a couple you have sort of like a physical language, like when you come into a room, when you leave a room, how you touch, how you do it, like how you have something that feels very familiar. And so and they really worked really hard on that, sort of like to make this feel like, okay, we have 17 years of history together.
And you feel that. I mean, and you go and say that, like, you like to pick actors who normally don't do these things. And I've seen that through all your different filmography. Like, everything you've done so far, you can see that with you pick certain actors who it's like, I could never imagine them there. But now I see the movie and I'm like, I can see that. Someone you did mention, though, was Pablo Schreiber. This guy is gigantic. I mean, there's one scene in particular between him and Chris Evans, and I'm like, he's that tall? I mean, that was a great casting choice in there as well, man.
No, thank you. And Pablo is so good. He's kind of both, because he's sort of like has the antagonist part in a way, which there's a twist to, but we're not going to reveal that. But we didn't want somebody who sort of like, you really believe that he brings a lot of humanity to it, which he does. And also, I like that he's physically imposing, because Chris is a big guy too. I mean, he's a fit, strong guy, and so there's something about having this imposing man, even if they're dueling, in a courtroom.
Totally.
It was very interesting to do that, and that was also Pablo's approach to the character, that I'm playing someone who think he's doing the right thing.
And I like that, because you kind of get to see everyone's angles in here. Like, there's not one frustrating character where you're like, come on, like, how can I get behind your logic? But you can, because if you put yourself in everyone's shoes, you can see all their different perspectives, and that was such a great way that you did it. Now, Michelle Dockery, though, does such a phenomenal job in here as well. There's something about her, though, in between her and Andy, who or Chris Evans' character, Andy, when they are looking at all the evidence, she doesn't seem to look through rose-tinted lenses. How is that something that you brought about and developed within her character?
I mean, her journey as a character is maybe the one that differs the most from the book, because book is written from Andy's Chris character's perspective. Everything is like his point of view. So we wanted to sort of like split that into two. So it's from both parents, and we made her arch slightly different than it is in the book, and it's so understandable because here's what it is. You have sort of like your conditional love for your child is sort of like a prison, because you see, I will do anything for my child, but what happens if what you're willing to do for your child goes against moral compass, what actually as a human being stand for, and what you feel is right and wrong. And if there's a conflict between that and your unconditional need to help and protect your child, the clash between those, and that is something that's sort of bad guilt. I should, as a mom or as a dad or as a parent, I should protect and do anything I can to free my child no matter what. Mm-hmm. But what if he really did it? What do I do then?
And that's the intriguing thing. So I have a question. What would you do if you were in her shoes? Would you be more like her or like Andy?
It's interesting. And I don't know. I really don't know. And this maybe what's draw this to me. I'm a single dad. I have a 12-year-old son and who lives with me. And it's like, worrying about him is like a full-time occupation for me, isn't it? Every other parent. And it's very interesting. It's kind of what really drew me to this project was to actually just play with the fact, like, what would you actually do? And I hope that's what people will discuss afterwards, that you watch this and then you watch it with your teenage kids, or you watch it with your partner, and you think about what would you do? What's right? What's wrong?
Yeah, and that's something that I was doing. I was like, if we had a kid, what would you do? Like, and I love that so much. Now, I have one more thing to talk about casting. Of course, we're not getting into spoilers. You did cast someone as Andy Barber's dad. I did not know who that was. I'm keeping that away because I want that to be a big surprise for people. That casting choice was just fantastic. And I thought what you did with the dad's character in here was actually better than the book. How do you feel that you improved upon in this part from the book?
I mean, a lot of that, some of that really came as part of the writing that Mark did. And it's also something that this actor, I was about to mention it again, which it's the second time I worked with him. And he is one of our big American actors, which it blows me away every time you put him in front of the camera and magic happens.
Absolutely. He shows up and I go, oh my God, they got him perfect. That's perfect in there.
He brings a authority to the screen, which is pretty amazing. But he brought a lot of humanity, which I really love, that there's this character who's so hard and had done so many bad things, and at the end he's just kind of like a very lonely man who's at the end of his life and really wants to have a little bit of connection to his family. And I really loved that part. And I think this is very kudos to Mark Bomback's writing. So that I think all of the characters are very humane. I think even we have someone who is a registered sex offender, who's a pedophile, and which is also played beautifully. And there's something creepy about him, but it's also something very sad, and there's also something kind of understand that this is. I mean, when we approach it, it's like that. I wanted to say, like, he's a victim himself.
Yes.
So, and that's the approach of it, which is also. I don't believe that people are genuinely bad or evil. It's like we just, a lot of us are just victims of our circumstances, and trying to humanize people are something that's important for me. And I like to think that we've done that with all the characters here, even the people who are against our heroes. You can sort of like relate to them and understand them.
You do such a good job in that relatability. And again, you mentioned certain characters that are like, in a typical fashion, maybe even in a movie format, you wouldn't be able to kind of side with them. But in a show format, you're able to really expand and, again, add to this world and this atmosphere of these characters. And I thought that was just so unique. Now, with a book, you do have a blueprint for the show. Now, how did it go about in building this world's atmosphere? Because I thought that was like the key thing for this world, was the atmosphere, feeling like you're with this family and bringing it all to life.
I mean, Jonathan Freeman, who's my DP, which has done some of the most amazing work in TV with like Game of Thrones and Boardwalk Empire. So we sat down and I said, my only approach to this, because my background is movies, so I have to, so I said, these remind me of some of my favorite movies, like Mystic River, Michael Clayton. There's these movies which are character-driven and intimate and have this atmosphere, this like dark atmosphere to them. So we watched a lot of this, The Ice Storm. We watched a lot of these films, and we sort of like tailored a lot of our visual language around movies we love, and said, let's go in and create sort of like a movie language for this, and not look necessarily to typical TV. And that's how it's more like come on. And we created some rules, like we lit a lot for we made interiors kind of a little bit dark, a little underlit. So the camera's exposed for the outside, which creates the feeling of this like trapped inside, which is relatable now because we're all trapped inside. And there, we shot a lot against windows and silhouettes and framed people. I love a lot how Bergman shoots interiors. He stacks his characters. You feel you get a lot of reactions, like people are acting with their back towards them. The other actor, it's like very interesting, like how you compose actors in the shot, which I feel very inspired by him. And you see that some of there's some scenes. I think it's episode 6. There's a kitchen scene which I love, and in every shot you see all 3 actors. They're all stacked. Either you see one of them reflected in the window. Ooh. You see a little bit like they're all in each other's shots. They're all connected.
Yeah, thinking about that is very true. And when you talk about the kitchen in general, the house feels like a character of itself as well, since it's like they're trapped in there. And there's some nice like parallels to prison and with the media and everything that kind of plays around there. But you mentioned that now, and now I'm thinking back, and there's some particular moments when Michelle Dockery is just making food, and you can see Jaeden Martell in the background with Chris Evans just talking, and it's so subtle, but fantastic work on that. Like, just making me think back now. I didn't notice that at first, but now I'm thinking back.
This is something which Bergman has his background from theater. They added to his movies, and there's all these characters are all performing or all existing in the same frame, because they're all trapped together in the same frame. Mm-hmm. So you will see that in a lot of the shots, they are all in each other's frames, and they're all in perspective.
Mm-hmm. Now, coming onto the project, had you read the book? And if you did, were there any items that you wanted to add upon from the book, or maybe change just a bit to add to the mystery of the story?
I mean, I came on board. Mark contacted me, Mark Bomback, and asked me if I wanted to read a draft he had of the first episode, which I loved. And then I read the book, and we talked a lot about it. I think what we discussed the most is how Jacob. In the book, I feel he's more troubled.
I agree.
And I feel that if we in a book, you can be allowed to that, because it's easier to create doubt on stuff in a book, because if the character doubt, you doubt, because you're reading it from perspective of somebody. In a movie or in a series like this, you have to be a little bit more delicate in balancing it. And I think we wanted Jacob to feel very relatable. So that is something we wanted to change. And then, of course, I'm not going to say anything, but especially episode 8, there's some big changes for how we're actually ending it, which we did on purpose, because another thing is we wanted to bring up, like, how can you move on with something? How much are you willing to accept? Like this like kind of like pact you make, and it's like, we're never going to talk about this again. We're both going to accept lie. Like the lie is a big theme throughout the whole thing.
Absolutely. And noticing some of those changes from the book, I have to say, I actually really liked the choices that you made with Jaeden Martell's character, because it actually made I felt like the mystery spiraled a little bit better. And you said, like, coming from a book to a movie, a lot of adaptions, I feel like maybe stick too close to it. And at times it doesn't leave that much of a mystery up, because a book and a movie or a book, a movie, a show are completely different. But I will say I love the ending. And I think that is where a lot of discussion will be had, is that final episode, which really puts a lot of perspective in there. Now, with these, what were some of your favorite things that you kind of brought from the book that you were really excited to kind of adapt?
Look, I mean, the I mean, there's so much. It's kind of hard because the book has the atmosphere of the book and the actual character we brought there, and what we really wanted is that sort of like these parents are clinging to that hope or that belief that he is innocent. That's that's what the whole book is about in many ways. So we did that, and we stole the whole like the also in the book the grand jury hearing is sort of like the framework of the whole story is told to this grand jury, and we took that, and that actually worked so well as sort of like a the now of the story. This is actually Andy telling. I mean, most of the series is actually flashback. It's Andy sitting at the grand jury at you, telling what actually happened, and it's pieced together. And how it plays, this is something we took from the book already. The episode is like he does something. And his character does something in the beginning of episode 2, where he disposes of something, and you think that's going to be a big secret. Then right after, you have this in the grand jury hearing where he actually talks about it as if something that everybody knows. And you kind of like really fuck with people's perspective of where in the story are we? And what is the secret? What is known? And that is literally from the book. And I really love that kind of like, people keep a little tiptoe because it's playing with people's perception and how information is coming, and that is beautifully done in the book, and we really adapted that.
And you adapted it so well because it really again spirals this unhinged, unnerved like mystery that you're just on the edge. You're like thinking, what is going on? What is going to happen next? And I wonder, did you think Andy Barber is an unreliable narrator? Do you think he's an unreliable narrator? Like through the whole entire show to the book, like as he's telling this, do you think there's any place in there where he maybe fibbed just a bit to kind of shift the perspective?
Definitely. And that's something we're kind of, it's actually a challenge. We actually pivoted the point on something that we discussed so much, and it's kind of hard for us to get, because Chris is so relatable, and you really immerse yourself in the character. So you want to believe him, but he's also lying. He's sitting there in the grand jury, and he's literally not telling the truth.
Yes.
So we were discussing, like, will people understand that he is now actually lying to Neil, that he is not telling the truth? And how confusing that will be. But here's the thing: we decided that we it's for fairly smart people, and they will figure it out. And that he's actually telling one story to Neil, the grand jury hearing, and then you will see one story, and also he's another thing is that he's also lying to himself a little bit.
Yeah.
We're showing things that there's obviously doubts with him, but he cannot go there. He has to lie for himself. Like, there's absolutely no doubt. I am so sure he's innocent. I will do anything for it. And but he's always, we feel and see that he's lying there. So again, the lie and living with a lie and how that impacts us is a huge theme throughout the whole series.
And the way that Chris Evans is just able to emote those feelings, the frustration, the contemplating, there's multiple moments throughout the show that you just framed so well and directed so well that I was just like, man, I just feel like I'm in his shoes. Like, he's just like, did my son do it? Did he not? I want to protect him, but I need to know. And there are multiple moments where he just outbursts, and I'm just like, this isn't Captain America anymore. I mean, even in the first episode, he just disappears into this role as Andy Barber, and it's easily one of his best performances ever.
Oh, thank you. No, he's phenomenal. And also, he was so passionate about this and brought so much to it. Him, Michelle, and also then, I mean, here's the thing. When you're shooting the TV and you're trying to sort of like have like a movie quality on it, it's the shoot is like crazy. And I could not have done it if I didn't have actors that were so prepared, so engaged, and there were so many discussions. So when we actually came in shooting it, we kind of like all knew where we wanted to go. And everybody was so on it. It was so much work they did to prepare. I mean, we had days where there was like so much dialogue. Like we shot all of the grand jury in 3 days, and there was like every day there was like 10 to 13 pages of dialogue to remember, and it was so much, and they were just so prepared, and we just got through it. And not only was it they remember it, but they all the different layers of when do we tell the truth, when do we lie, what is this actually happening, all the intent here. So I had my best experience from this was definitely working with these phenomenal actors.
Well, and I can feel the passion coming off from you about this show. That makes me even more excited to kind of go back through and rewatch some of the episodes now. I want to know, how long did it take you guys to film and pretty much create the whole entire show? What was the shooting process?
We shot about 110 days in Boston.
Okay.
Or actually we shot it exactly where it happens. Like in the book, Cold Spring Park, which is the phenomenal name. Cold Spring Park. It's like it screams somebody should get killed in Cold Spring.
Pretty much.
It's the name screams murder mystery. But Cold Spring Park is a real park. Is where it happens in the book. That's where we shot the actual murder. That's where we find it. It's actually in that place. We shot in the neighborhood that's described in the book. So we tried to, not that we wanted to be true to the book, because where it happens, this is kind of like, it is a privileged area. It's like everybody goes to because it's so safe. And we actually say that this is supposed to be the safest place possible. How can this happen? And this is also part of what's interesting to happen, because this is not so bad. This is not supposed to happen to us. It's not supposed to happen to our son. It's sort of like becomes more unthinkable. It's such a middle class safe part of the United States, where and that's why it's so interesting to explore this when everything falls apart and all the cracks comes up, all the lies comes up. So yes, we wanted to. So we shot it on location a lot. We shot it in Boston, and then we had 5 days at the end where we went to Mexico and shot the Mexico part.
Oh, perfect. And you really, like, again, just such a great job. I'm like really blown away by this show. Like I went in so excited, and sometimes when you do that, you get your expectations so high, but I was really like so engaged throughout it. And I'm wondering, do you prefer the binge format? Do you like the release of week to week? Because I do kind of wish I watched it week to week so we could have had better discussions. And I've told my girlfriend, I'm like, we got to just watch this show again, kind of just go through each episode and digest it a little bit more. But it was so hard to put down. And I know Apple is releasing it week to week. Well, today 3 episodes, then week to week. And I think that's such a smart format.
I love that. I think that I'm actually so happy you love it, because I can see that for a lot of people having to, binge all of this, I can see that some of it can be overwhelming because it's so much. I would have struggled to go to binge watch. I'm not a binge watch type, so I like to portion things out. I like to do 2-3 episodes and then take a break. It's kind of like but that's me. A lot of people like to binge it, but I think that I'm glad we're having 3 episodes out, so you can really, feel what the show is about. And I think that by teasing it out week by week, there will be more discussion about every episode, because every episode brings out a theme. There's something specific about each episode. Like episode 5, we find out what's happening online. All these things are happening, which is what do we know about our kids, what they're actually doing on their, phone and on their screen, which you never know. And so I think there's some cliffhangers which we would love for people to, like the cliffhanger between 7 and 8. I can't wait for people to see 7 and then go like, what the fuck?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they have to wait a week. So, and not just click on next and see it. So I actually think it's a good format. I think it's hopefully it spark a lot of conversations.
And it feels interactive. Like that's the thing. Like my parents are very excited to watch this show now, and I'm excited to kind of have this discussion with them week to week. Since I've already seen the show, and it's that interactiveness that I love, and I like that Apple is actually taking again the week to week format, because I feel like when you have a binge show, it comes out, people talk about it that first weekend, and then they stop. this keeps the
Yeah.
discussion going over the next couple of weeks, and it makes people kind of want to dive into it just a bit more. Now, with this being your first venture into streaming, do you prefer it? Do you have plans for more things on streaming platform? Do you want to head back more to the theaters once theaters start opening back up?
I don't know yet. I do have some plans on something, and also there's limited time you can be on set. That's the biggest problem with like several episodes, is that it's so time consuming to direct. So there's also things which I hope to produce, which I'm setting up. But as a director, I don't know. I feel the need to shoot a movie. I gotta say. But if it becomes, because it's literally it's shooting a movie, it kind of feels easier now after done 8 hours. I spoke, like, this is the first time Mark wrote for TV. He's only been writing for movies. And we've both been like, wow, doing a 2-hour movie now is easy.
I believe it.
It's nothing. Like, dealing with 8 hours is a crazy pressure. So yeah, no, I would love to, but if it's going to be for theater or streaming, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to theaters after this. It's and also there's a kind of, I gravitate more towards kind of a little bit more complex stories with characters which are a little bit more gray. They're in between. They're not real good or bad. They're in that gray zone, and I think that's more complex stories. It's getting harder and harder to put in theaters. That's sort of like what the streamers are, because then. So if it becomes for a streamer or if it becomes a theater, I don't know. I hope it's for theater, but I'm also seeing that a lot of the more complex stories now are being told to streamers.
Absolutely. And so, like, just leading into the final question, you did say something. I had a different question, but now I want to ask you something else. I'm curious. So obviously with this being your first show, you have 2 movies that again, Imitation Game and Passengers. If you could turn one of those into a TV show or a streaming, what would you have rather have had it be? Which one?
If I should make them into streaming or
into like an 8 episode arc of a show instead.
No, I think both of them really should be movies. Okay. There's something about seeing a full. This is something which I hope. That's why I hope we don't lose movies. Sitting through one story told to in 2 to 2.5 hours is a great experience. You're sharing that experience and then you leave it. Seeing it, like, you have to come back. It's like there's something. I don't think movie will disappear, and I hope it won't disappear. I do think limited series is sort of like the cinematic novel. If I do a novel and I make it into a TV, like a feature, you have to make really hard choices.
Yes,
you have to sort of like put everything, the plot and everything together, and there will be some things you cannot go into. With a limited series, you can really deep dive and sort of like do a novel more justice. You can sort of like cruise with it. So yeah, so I think it's a very interesting format which we didn't have many years ago. There was not a lot of like limited series like this, which are like filmmaker driven, which is not by episodic directors and whatever. It has a filmmaker who is actually making one story told over several episodes, and that is going to be a lot. I think it's going to be something that's going to come more and more because it is a very interesting format.
I love it.
Yeah, but at the same time, I hope the feature will continue to exist and that they will be allowed to see that in theaters.
I do too. I mean, I used to go to the movies like when the movie theaters were open. I'd go like 4 times a week for either press screenings or in general just seeing movies. It was my favorite thing to do. And thank you so much for joining me for this discussion. It was great picking your brain, discussing Defending Jacob more, and I can't wait to see the discussions that a lot of other people have with it.
I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.